What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy Johnny. In today's video, we are going to be comparing the graphics of Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. So the reason I want to compare the graphics of these games is because I personally think that Game Freak didn't really update the graphics as much for Pokemon Let's Go. Obviously, there is definitely a signs of a better graphics on the Nintendo Switch, but I feel like they just did a couple of tweaks and probably added a couple of mechanics to the graphics engine and Pokemon Let's Go. Now, the games that I'm going to be preparing are obviously a little bit different. So, for example, we're going to be comparing the Nintendo 3DS version of the games, which has the lowest resolution and graphics in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon and Sun and Moon. And then we're going to be comparing the graphics with CITRA at 1080p running at 60 FPS. And we're going to be seeing the graphics of that comparison to the graphic comparison to, as well as Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. So I prefer using CITRA because I think CITRA is definitely a good emulator that actually allows you to actually see a comparison between the two graphics at a better upscaled rendering. You can even render it at 4K, I believe, but it looks really amazing when you compare the games and the differences between all of them. And I think it's pretty interesting to check out the footage on how each game looks, especially in CITRA. The first comparison that we're going to be doing in this video will actually be the original Nintendo 3DS version. Now, this has actually been captured straight from my capture card on my Nintendo 3DS, and as you guys can see on the left side, the graphics do tend to look a little bit washed out, and the lines seem a little bit washed out as well. Everything looks a little bit more blurry when you make a comparison to the one on the right. It just looks really way different. Now, it doesn't look too bad for a Nintendo 3DS game, I must say. This is probably the most strongest graphical Pokemon game on the Nintendo 3DS and was the best one at the moment in the series when this came out. The next footage you're going to be seeing is the comparison of the CITRA 3DS emulator with the Pokemon Let's Go side by side. So if you look at the graphics, ladies and gentlemen, they are nearly identical, but of course in certain areas you will definitely see that it definitely is outdated in terms of graphics because it looks blurry, some of the textures. But a lot of the stuff around the environments and everything actually looks pretty sharp in my opinion, even as well as the Pokeball battles or the capturing of the Pokemon. And I actually put the patch where it has no lines, and it actually looks better with the no lines rather than the lines on the 3DS. It makes the game look a little bit more realistic. So coming into my conclusion in this video, I do see that Pokemon Let's Go does indeed have better graphics than Pokemon Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon, especially even in CITRA. As you guys can know, the textures in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon are outdated. Like, some of the textures seem blurry even when they're upscaled to 1080p. Remember that these textures are meant to be for the Nintendo 3DS, and basically it's just upscaling everything and rendering it at 1080p or 4K, whichever your computer may be handling in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon and CITRA. Now, I think Pokemon Let's Go definitely has a redefined engine from the previous 3DS games. It definitely has added more stuff to the engine, probably a little bit more details in the environments and the areas around, and as well as the Pokemon, even a couple more details into the Pokemon. But I would have to say that it is really not a big major improvement in my opinion. Even though the game does indeed run at 1080p and it's more crispy and clear, I still feel that the Nintendo Switch is being really limited when it comes to Pokemon Let's Go. Hopefully in the next generation they decide to go into full blast detail, adding super much more details into the environments, maybe even making them a little bit more detailed and maybe a little bit of realism between cartoonish as well. I think that would be a great step for the next Pokemon games. But then again, these games seem to have shifted to a different type of art form where everything is starting to become a little bit more cartoonish as the future games are being released. Either way, I just wanted to show you guys. Let me know in the comment section what you think of the comparison between the graphics of Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon and CITRA, as well as in Pokemon Let's Go.